It's draft day. It's going to start with Cooper Flagg, but there will be a whole parade of college players drafted after him. And in my opinion, this is great for the college game.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up? Happy Wednesday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, joined by our good buddy, Leif Thulin. Always good to be co-hosting together. And you're joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listener watch to get your stuff here on the podcast, Locked On Podcast Network. Reminder, you can catch every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Special shout out to all the everydayers who are here with us and all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord as well. We'd love to see you in there. That link is in the show notes. Coming up on the show today, as I said, it is draft day. Round one. Remember, it's now split into two. Round one tonight at 8 Eastern. Tomorrow, round two at 8 Eastern as well. As I said, Leif is here today for those of you who are listening and can't see his wonderful face. And so what I'd encourage you to do is you may or may not be aware that Leif is part of Locked On Big Board, where he's got draft stuff going all the time. It's not just love of college basketball. So make sure to go check out his latest big board. You can find it on his Twitter. It's going to be linked in the show notes as well, and you can find it there. As for the show today, this year, there are going to be a whole truck ton of players drafted at the top of this thing. So we're going to kind of look at that dynamic and what it might mean, or it might mean nothing. We're going to look at Cooper Flagg's probable career arc, or at least our projection of it right now. We're going to look at who's probably going to go third, because Ace Bailey keeps on falling. And then we'll wrap up the show talking about what's going to shock us tonight, what's going to be the biggest surprise. And out of Leafs' projected top 10, who's going to have the best or most impactful career? Should be a lot of fun. Let's dive right into it. Leaf, there has been, multiple years where we've seen not a lot of college players drafted right at the top or in the lottery, at least not as many as maybe historically we've seen. That has curtailed some of that with Ignite going away, thanks to NIL. But Leif, I think just the way I want to get into this is asking you this question, and you can just fall back on your draft board if you want to, but how far are we going to get tonight before a non-college player is selected?
So this is a really fun question, because I think the safe answer is, if am I trying to be correct for the test type of thing, would be 8. I think the first team that makes me think that there could be an international player that did not play college, because Kasparis Yakachonis obviously attended Illinois, would be Toronto. Okay. I think there's a chance they would find a liking with Noah Asenge, who's a French international who plays in Germany. But my guess, if I had to guess, that's the safe answer. My guess is 11th pick is probably where it really gets interesting, where Portland, Noah Asenge or Joan Beringer, both French, both factor into the equation. Both are getting a lot of stock rising right now because they're both fantastically athletic, long, and both of them are playing playoff basketball as we speak. So I think there's more intrigue than there was before on those two guys. Those are the two that make me think that there's someone, and one who's been here for a long time in the discussion who had tailed off a bit this year is Nolan Traore. He was projected top 5 before the season. My guess is he's a fringe lottery pick. So my guess is 11th, 12th pick is probably the first international player who did not attend college.
Man, that's great. Which one of those guys do you think it will ultimately be?
I'm going to go with Asenge. I think Asenge is the youngest player in the draft, and he's got the prototypical, it's a French guy, super long, a little newer to basketball, but he's playing in a league in which he's been able to put up more numbers than a lot of these guys. He's averaging around 11 a game, which I know is not crazy, but sometimes these guys are averaging 5 per game, and it's all projection. I think there's some legitimacy to his statistics, and he's the youngest player in the draft. Beringer is the hot name right now, though.
Yeah, and that's a great point. When projection meets actual on-court happening, that's very nice for front offices, because now they're not just having to look at projection. That's a win. So, Leif, that's kind of I appreciate your take there. That's kind of the top 10 lottery-ish look at the college domination of the front end of this draft. What about tonight, first round in totality? Out of the 30 players selected, how many of those do you project will be guys that played in college this past season?
I'm going to go with 24
Okay.
because my board, I like a few more college players than that, but I think I skew a little bit towards I've seen a ton of these guys. So there's a guy like Cam Jones I have in my first round. I have Ryan Nembhard in my first round because I think they're very good basketball players, and I've seen so much of them that I think they're becoming overlooked because people have seen them too much. And so the intrigue of potential of, oh, this guy showed flashes in this setting, I think is going to draw some teams for high potential swings. Whereas Cam Jones, Ryan Nembhard, Ryan Kalkbrenner, guys like that, I think become overlooked. So my board may favor college players. So I'll go 24.
Okay.
I think there's going to be Beringer. I think there's going to be Traore, Asenge. I think you're probably going to see a combination of Saraf, Hugo Gonzalez, and I don't
Maybe
know
Penda?
exactly who the next one is. I left one up for discussion. Like you can have one more guy slide in there. Noah Penda would probably be my guess as the sixth one, or the third of the ones I'm not less sure of, I should say.
Okay. So if I gave you 24 and a half college players, you would go under?
Probably wouldn't take the line, but I would slightly lean I don't know, honestly. If you give me 25 and a half, I'd take under. 24 and a half, I'd probably I don't really know.
That's a
Uh,
tough line.
I actually am looking at some wagers and trying to figure out what I want to do for the draft because there's a lot of rumors swirling about, and some of them make me feel happy about my team and others do not.
So, Leif, zooming back out to the big picture level of this, then, if anything, what does it say about the nature of college basketball that we are going to have, 24 to 27 college players drafted tonight in round one? I think part of this, and maybe this will get you into your answer, you mentioned Kasparas Jakučionis earlier, who in a different age might not have come to America to play college basketball because NIL wasn't in place. But we're seeing so many of these guys make that jump. Do you think that's a big factor in this, or are there other things at play as well?
Absolutely. I think the fact that players that could be playing professional basketball, and in Kasparas Jakučionis' case, did play college basketball, are now going to go play ball in the collegiate ranks and say, we can go 1 year and get really good exposure and be there stateside for teams to evaluate and do all that stuff is really helpful. I also think the fact that the G League is no longer something where the players go straight because the money allure, because you can get that same money or better playing collegiate basketball, is making some of the top American prospects stay in college basketball. And while I have my gripes about what it does to the transfer portal and how it becomes a professional sport as opposed to possessing amateurism, those are my gripes. I do think the lack of G League Ignite has been fantastic for the NBA draft and how it impacts college basketball. I think college basketball is now going to be the factory that it once was, and was for pretty much all of my life and pretty much all of history. At one point, it was 3 years of Michael Jordan. It was years and years of Akeem Olajuwon, who was super raw and became a no-brainer at one, even in a class with Michael Jordan. And you look at this, and now the high school
Mike Jordan in those days.
Yeah, Mike Jordan. That freshman who hit a game winner against Georgetown, but or against Indiana. He got shut down by Dan Dockich. So that's the guy we're talking about. So, but my point is largely that I think college basketball is going to reap the rewards of what the G League change is more than the international one. But I think players like Kasparas Jakučionis, like Yegor Demon, are laying the foundation for it to be possible for players from international ranks to go play collegiately and see that they can go in the lottery, as opposed to having a collegiate career and it's all projection of, Kasparas Jakučionis played, he probably would have played more, but like in the likes of Asenge, he's one of the higher scorers at 10.5 per game, as opposed to Kasparas Jakučionis playing collegiate basketball is able to have the ball in his hands and run 250 pick and rolls in a season. So I just think that that's going to be the thing that reaps the rewards for college basketball and in relation to the NBA draft.
Well, the guy that goes first tonight certainly was a big part of collegiate basketball this year. He was all anybody could talk about. It's Cooper Flagg. So much has been made about him. I want to peg Leif down and say, Leif, what sort of impact is Mr. Flagg going to have in the short term in Dallas and long term in his NBA career? That's where our conversation's headed in just a second. Right after I tell you about Rougiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, in just about 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment's right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. It's completely online. Rougiette connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. So head on over to rougiette.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege and use promo code lockedoncollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information. Leif, this time last year, Cooper Flagg was, number one in every draft board, and he did nothing to dissuade anyone from that. As soon as the Mavs got that pick, they came out like the next day and were like, yep, Cooper Flagg, we're not taking trade offers or anything else at all. So all of that said, Leif, that's a foregone conclusion for tonight. So let's not even speculate outside of asking, is Cooper Flagg going to continue to do what he's done at every level and just win and just affect the game in a multitude of ways? What are your career expectations for Mr. Flagg, both in the short and long term?
Well, to answer your question, I think he almost was underrated coming into this season because he came in and there was a question of, oh, you know what, can he be a number one option? Like, yeah, maybe he's the most complete, but Ace is more dynamic. Ace could be Tracy McGrady and Flagg, Scottie Pippen. And I even made that point. Like, it was a draft point of like, what if? But like the fact that was a conversation undersold how dominant Cooper Flagg was. At the age of 18 in ranked games, he averaged 26 and 12. And sorry, at the age of 17. Once he turned 18, he turned the corner, went from 5th in Player of the Year odds to winning the Player of the Year. So I think he exceeded expectations as the number one guy, which is rare. Sometimes they kind of coast into getting number one. I mean, you could even say Wembanyama coasted into getting number one because he was really good, but you knew he was number one, so it didn't matter. Like Flagg ran through the race and got there. And to answer the second part of the question of how good will he be now, like in the immediate short term, and then how good will he be in the long term? I think immediately that you're getting a guy who's scoring 16, 17 points, 6, 7 rebounds, couple assists on a team that's in win now mode, because most number one picks get the reins right away. He can have part of the reins, but they've got Anthony Davis. Kyrie's injured, but coming back. And so you look at what they have as a whole, and it's a little different than most situations inherited by number one picks. And that's why I give hesitancy to saying he can be an all-star super quickly. However, by year 3 or 4, where he's ending his rookie contract, I think he's a 21-7-7 guy. And that's a max player in the NBA. And then here's the crazy part. I think when it's all said and done, Cooper Flagg's 8-10 years into his career, I think his career looks very reminiscent to that of Jayson Tatum's. And Jayson Tatum, like him or not, I'm actually not the hugest fan of Jayson Tatum, but I would argue that he's a top 5 player in the NBA when healthy. And the statistics would back it up. Not only just the statistics of points, rebounds, assists, but he's a good defender, and he's been all NBA first team 4 years out of 5, something like that. So you look at that, and I think Cooper Flagg comes in as a better freshman, younger. Tatum may have had a smoother scoring game. Flagg scored more. Tatum may have been a better shooter. Flagg shot better. So all the things that were deterrents of saying what could go wrong for Cooper Flagg, he actually outperformed by such a vast margin. It wasn't like, oh yeah, this could be a concern. Now they're like strengths. Like you cannot even look at the numbers and say, yeah, I'm a little worried about his shot. His shot went from kind of being a rigid, high release, kind of elbow out thing to being a 39% 3-point shooter on high volume and an 84% free throw shooter. Like in any shooter, like you could look at Con Kneppel and say, oh, those are stats. He's a pretty good shooter. Con's a better shooter than that, but they're not that disparate. Like it's pretty alarming how good Cooper Flagg was, not to mention what he does excellently in terms of the intangibles and winning the basketball games. He's able to get to his spots on the floor. It's not the flashiest scorer. It's not Kevin Durant. It's not Carmelo Anthony, like the true hooper type of scoring, but he's an advantage creator. He's like a supercomputer. processes everything and realizes, okay, this is where the advantage is. I'm going to score. Oh, wait, there's someone double team. Here's an alley-oop to Malawach. Here's a kick out to Con Knipple. And he does all these things at such an alarming rate, especially at 18 years old. Not to mention he's got a body of a power forward and is NBA ready in that regard and is only going to improve. He's probably, since I've actually been evaluating, not since like I was 10, because I've been evaluating the draft since I've been like 4 years old. It sounds weird, but like I really have. Since I've actually been evaluating, he's the best prospect I've seen that's American. Not so I don't count Victor Wembanyama because his stuff was just through the roof. But I actually like Cooper Flagg more than I liked Anthony Davis. Granted, when Anthony Davis was drafted, I was 10 years old, but I watched a ton of college basketball at that point. And Anthony Davis, I liked more than Zion Williamson when I was watching Zion in college. And so that's how high of praise I've got for him. I think Cooper Flagg is going to be a 5-7 time All-NBA guy in the first 10, 15 years of his career.
Man, and the landing spot has to have so much to do with it, right? Like, as you said, usually a number one pick is going to a franchise in disarray who's struggling. Cooper's going to a spot that usually someone later in the first round would go to, where it's like, hey, you're coming into a healthy franchise. Although, you know, everyone might be frustrated with Luka heading out to LA in the front office, whatever. Man, it's like the landing spot of somebody who would go later in the draft, that you look at guys and you're like, hey, that's great for them that they went that far. So seems to be a great position for him to be able to go learn under Kyrie, learn under AD and all of that stuff, man. That's really, really good. Now, one of the, you talked about Ace Bailey a little bit ago. It's very interesting. We all expect Cooper Flagg to go number 1 tonight, Dylan Harper number 2, whether that's to the Spurs, whether they trade out, whatever, it'll be Dylan Harper. But where things have flipped around a lot is Ace Bailey. There's been so much made of his pre-draft lack of working out and talking to people, all that. Andy and I talked about that earlier in the week. And we looked at the Ace Bailey side, but Leif, I want to look at the other side of it. Who is going to be the benefactor of Ace's drop, however precipitous it is? Who ultimately goes third to the 76ers? Who do you think actually does it? And who do you think should go if those answers are different?
Those answers are different for me. And I agree that Ace Bailey's drop, I think the demise is becoming overly exaggerated. And I don't think it will be as precipitous as you said. I would tell you with confidence, I think the pick will be VJ Edgecombe if the Sixers keep the pick. I think they're looking to trade it, would be what my intel is telling me. And I also think it would be smart to look to trade it and get an established NBA player as opposed to a player, because they're also a win now team. I know they won 24 games, but they get Joel Embiid back. They have Tyrese Maxey. They get Jared McCain back. So I think it's the team that should, and Paul George presumably can't be much worse than he was last season. So I think presumably you would look for a player that can impact now. I would take Ace Bailey for the 76ers personally. However, this is a nuanced thing. I think it'll be VJ Edgecombe, so I'll answer that first. I would take my third on my board is Trey Johnson. I like Trey Johnson more than Ace Bailey. But for the 76ers specifically, I would take Ace Bailey, and I would not be surprised if Daryl Morey doesn't listen to any of the smoke going around about Ace Bailey and says Ace Bailey's really interviewed poorly. He's trying to weasel his way out of different spots, and he has a preferred landing destination. I don't think Daryl Morey is going to fall victim to that, and he's going to pick his guy. If he believes Ace Bailey can help the 76ers win in Joel Embiid's time frame, because unlike most number 3 picks, they have a former number 3 pick who is a former MVP in the NBA. So they're going to build around him rather than pick who they think is going to be the best. And they might actually hit both. So I would take Ace Bailey, even though I have Trey Johnson as a better prospect than Ace Bailey. I just don't think he fits with Maxey and McCain and guys like that. So that would be my pick. I think it'll be VJ Edgecombe, and I don't actually think that's a good pick.
Okay, very interesting. So, Leif, I tend to agree with you. Like, I don't think Ace's fall will be quite as precipitous as maybe a lot of people think. Where do you think he ultimately goes tonight?
I wouldn't be surprised if he is taken 3rd overall. I would not be surprised, but my guess is he goes 5th or 6th.
Okay.
And so this is going to sound really, really dumb because I'm going to give 4 possibilities here that cover 4 picks, but I'll at least outline it. 3rd is the one I just outlined. 4th is if a team feels the way to get Ace Bailey is trade up, because I don't think Charlotte wants to keep their pick. Rumor has it Charlotte really wants Khan or VJ. And if VJ goes 3, then they take Khan, but they would then want to trade down because they think they can get Khan at 7 or 8. and then teams at 7 or 8 are the Pelicans and the Nets. Both those teams are linked to Ace Bailey and Jeremiah Fears. So if Ace goes 4, it's via trade up. I don't think Charlotte takes him. The Jazz would not surprise me whatsoever. And as a diehard Jazz fan, I would not be mad at all if we take Ace Bailey. I think the Jazz prefer Trey Johnson over Ace Bailey, though. But Danny Ainge, he's not running the show anymore, but I'm sure he's still got some influence. And he loves long, athletic wings who can score the basketball. So I would not be surprised whatsoever he goes 5. And 6 is where all the betting favorites have him going to Washington. Maybe that's his preferred destination. I don't think he makes it to 6. My gut just doesn't allow me to believe that even if a guy's taking his interviews, even if he's doing that after 11 months of watching film and we go to the combine and everyone's got him 3. I actually had Trey Johnson 3, so maybe I was ahead of the curve in terms of the basketball evaluation. But I don't even think that's the case. I think everyone's just saying, oh, he's falling because he's falling. It's like the popular thing. Anyone who's been 3 11 months of the year is not going to fall to 6. I just don't believe it. So I think his capped at 5 in my personal belief, unless it goes VJ, Con, and then the Jazz would take Trey over Ace is my belief. But I don't know. I think it's a little silly. I think the precipitous drop stops at 6 at the lowest. But who knows? Sometimes crazy stuff happens.
Man, bless you, by the way. And I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's always fun to see what franchises outthink themselves and what ultimately happens. Lots of variables at play here. And so, Leif, as we often say, 3 feels like where the draft will really start, unless I guess maybe there's a trade at number 2 or something, but we assume that'll be Dylan. So, Leif, crazy things guaranteed to happen tonight. What's going to go down? What's the biggest shock and surprise of round 1? And take Cooper Flagg out of it. Out of your top 10, who has the most impactful NBA career? That's how we're going to wrap the show coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Monarch Money, do you ever look at your bank account and start thinking like, where on earth did all my money go? Because between dining out and buying tickets and online shopping, going to sports, whatever it is, it's easy to lose track of it all. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. They're your personal CFO, giving you full visibility of and control over all of your finances. What's neat is that Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track your accounts, your investments, and your spending all in one place. So instead of just managing your money, you actually start building wealth for yourself, your family, and hopefully future generations. I also love that instead of juggling a whole bunch of apps, like having a folder on your phone, it's like, well, here's all my money apps. No. Monarch is the one you can use to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So join us. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, that's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. It's NBA Draft Day, round 1 coming up tonight, 30 picks going down. And Leif, within all of that, we've talked about several scenarios and variables already. But as you look at it, whether it's a player taken earlier than expected, later than expected, maybe a bonkers like 57-team trade, something like that, what in your brain, and I'm asking you to project a world of who knows what's going to be the craziest surprise tonight?
That's going to be tough. My prediction, I don't think this is going to be that surprising, but what I think is going to happen is everyone's going to say it's going to be VJ and Con at 3 and 4. And my prediction is that the Ace and Trey, who've been seen as a higher prospect than Con all along, do in fact go ahead of Con. And there's going to be a trade in which Jeremiah Fears goes into the top 5. That's my hot take. I think there's going to be a trade, and my prediction is it's going to be Charlotte that makes the trade, and whoever trades up, whether it's Brooklyn, Washington, or New Orleans, I think makes a splash for either Fears or Bailey. So that would be that's my somewhat bold prediction. I have a lot of theories as to what smoke's real and what's not. And I think it really depends on which team trades. And then I think I could piece together the rest of the draft. I have a lot of theories about this, but that's the part that makes me interested is which team's willing to actually make the move. And then who are they going to take? And I've kind of put together my philosophy on all of that, but I just need to know who does it. And then I feel confident about evaluating the rest of the draft.
Interesting. Does it sound like the Spurs are hanging on to number 2 to take Dylan Harper? Like, are they going to keep both of these lottery picks?
I'd be surprised if the Spurs trade number 2. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade 14.
Okay.
If they trade 2, I think it's going to be for an actual established NBA basketball player. And there might be a pick in return, but I don't think it's going to be for a handful of picks.
Okay.
I think they're ready to start trying to win it while Victor Wembanyama's on a relatively tame deal. So I'd be surprised if the 2 pick is moved unless you're getting like an all-star caliber player in the deal.
Okay. Yeah. If somebody just comes and offers them the world and they can't say no, we'll see what happens there. All right. Leif, last question for today. Your top 10, the last I looked at it, tell me if it's changed, is Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Trey Johnson, Ace Bailey, Jeremiah Fears, VJ Edgecombe, Derek Queen, Kaspers Yakachonis, Kaman Malawach, and Kon Knipple. Has that changed? Is that still your top 10?
That is my top 10. That's for clarification for everyone. That's my board, not my prediction of what happens. Yeah. So that's how I evaluate these players, regardless of landing spot. This is just what I think the best player will be. I skew towards potential, so a lot of those I think they have a higher potential, and that is different than what I think will actually happen. Like I said, yeah. I think VJ Edgecombe's the most likely pick at 3, and I have him at 6.
Yep. Yeah. That's a good point of clarification here in how we look at this. And that's perfect to be going on potential, chiefly because, Leif, what I want to ask you, let's take Cooper Flagg out of the equation. We've already discussed him and your thoughts about what he will do. Of the other 9 in your top 10 on the big board, who has the most impactful NBA career? And I know that's a whole bunch of variables of where they play and injuries and all that, but just in a vacuum, who has the most impactful NBA career?
So I think Harper is the most polished and ready to do so. The only concern I have for him is if he goes to San Antonio, they already have the reigning rookie there, Castle and De'Aaron Fox. And I think that could stunt growth. So I'm going to give a fun answer as opposed to just say number 2 here. My answer is going to be Trey Johnson. And I'll give a pitch that I think is going to draw some ire, but I'm going to try to explain it. So I've said this for about 4 months, but I've said it more and more frequently recently. I think Trey Johnson is not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They score completely differently. But if I were to ask you about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at Kentucky or early stages of his career with the Clippers or the Thunder, you'd tell me he's a shooting guard, correct? Like, yeah. He's a scorer. Yes. I think Trey is an excellent scorer who's going to use his scoring chops, his gravity, and create advantages due to his scoring ability alone, and has the intangibles to make the open reads. Shai became a good point guard in this year because of his scoring, not because he's like Chris Paul gifted at processing the game. He's going to draw you advantages 4-on-3, 5-on-4 type of things off a pick and roll, and his shooting is going to draw people up to the higher lines, and he's going to make the right reads. And he's going to be a guy that is going to be an all-star numerous times because he's such a good scorer, much like Devin Booker, who averaged 7 assists this year. So if you prefer that comp, then fine. But the reason I say Shai is because Shai actually, I think, operates as the point guard, whereas Booker is the conduit to offense. It's a little different to me. But my point being is he's going to be a guy who scores 25 points a game, gets you 6 or 7 assists eventually, because he's going to score so well. He's going to draw teams, best defenders, and then the help defense. He's going to make the right reads eventually and use his shooting gravity to create for his team. So that's my kind of bold projection of who's going to have the best career if he's given a team, not the 76ers, and I don't think the Hornets either. So whether it's my Jazz or the Wizards, I think he's the guy with the most potential to be a multi-time all-star and all-NBA caliber guy because he's that gifted of a scorer.
I like it, Leif, man. That's great stuff. And honestly, I'm big Trey Johnson fan, so I'm with you. I think that's a great take. We'll see where he lands tonight along with all the rest of this crew, and then we can circle back around and see what's happening with it all. Should be a lot of fun. Leif, I know you need to go get some sleep because this has been a crazy time of the year. Thanks for making time, as always, to come hang out with me, man. Absolutely love it. All right, guys, if you've not subscribed to the show on video and audio, please make sure you do that. Go do the same for Locked On Big Board. As we said earlier, please make sure to check out Leif's own content. We're going to link his latest big board here in the show notes if you want to read that more and check into it ahead of tonight's round 1. If you've not joined the Locked On College Basketball Discord, that link is in the show notes. We'd love to see you there. Come talk college basketball with us. Let's hang out during the draft. It'll be a lot of fun. As always, we want to say apologies to the Lawyer family. Shouts to Mick Bruins. Let's go Wild Popes, and until tomorrow, peace.